It was the summer of 1953, and Rome buzzed with scandal. A young composer named Piero Piccioni found himself accused of murder, and for a moment his music fell silent. He was handsome, wealthy, and the son of one of Italy's most powerful politicians. Newspapers called him the jazz lawyer, a man who had everything. But behind the headlines was something far more interesting, the story of a man who turned chaos into melody and tragedy into art. Act 1, The Prodigy from Turin. Piero was born in Turin in 1921. His father, Attilio Piccioni, was a respected politician, serious, traditional, disciplined, but young Piero had a different rhythm beating inside him. While other boys studied law and Latin, he was listening to Count Basie and Duke Ellington records smuggled in from America. Jazz was forbidden under Mussolini's regime, a symbol of Western corruption. But to Piero, it was freedom set to music. He learned piano by ear, and by his 20s was already performing in Roman jazz clubs under the name Piero Morgan. Elegant suits, impeccable manners, and that rare blend of Italian melancholy and American swing. But then came the war, and with it, duty. After serving, he tried to follow his father's path, studied law, practiced briefly, yet even in court, his mind composed scores instead of arguments. By 1948, Italy was rebuilding, and so was he. He left law behind and stepped onto a different stage, the silver screen. Act 2. The jazz lawyer and the movie's Italian cinema was changing. The neo-realist era had shown the world poverty and hope through dusty streets and broken dreams. But people were hungry for something else. Style, romance, light. Piero brought exactly that. His early film scores blended jazz, classical grace, and modern cool. It was Italy's first soundtrack of modernity. Music that made Rome sound like New York, with a sunset in its pocket. By the early 1950s, he was a fixture of the Via Veneto scene. Actors, artists, politicians. He dated movie stars, drank espresso at Cafe Rosati, and drove a convertible through the city he was helping to define. And then, that summer of 1953, everything changed. Act 3. The Wilma Montesi Scandal. On a quiet April evening, the body of a young woman, Wilma Montesi, was found on a beach outside Rome. The newspapers exploded. Rumors of parties, drugs, and powerful men filled every headline. And soon, someone pointed a finger at Piero Piccioni. They said he'd been there, that his music played at the villa where she died, that he knew too much. Overnight, the composer became a suspect. The trial was a spectacle. Cameras flashing, headlines screaming. His father's political career was nearly destroyed, and for months Piero Piccioni was Italy's most talked about man. But there was no proof, no crime, only rumor. In 1954, he was acquitted, cleared of all charges. But the damage was done. To Italy, he was no longer just a composer. He was a myth in a tailored suit. Act 4. Return to music and the golden years. When he came back to music, he came back with fire. The 1950s and 60s became Piero Piccioni's golden age. He scored films for Michelangelo Antonioni, Alberto Lattuada, and Francesco Rosi. His soundtracks, Il Boom, The 10th Victim Swept Away, were cool, romantic, and unmistakably his. He loved contradictions, lush strings meeting wild saxophones, classical motifs wrapped in jazz rhythms. While Ennio Morricone painted with dust and guns, Piero Piccioni painted with champagne and city lights. His music was about people, flawed, beautiful, and achingly human. By the 1970s, he had written over 300 film scores. Some for great directors, some for forgotten films, but all carried that elegant, unmistakable sound of a man who lived between worlds. Act 5: Legacy and Reflection. As the years passed, he withdrew from the spotlight. The world changed. Rock replaced jazz. Italian cinema lost its glamour. But Piero's music never aged. Filmmakers still borrow his melodies. DJs sample his bass lines. Collectors hunt for his vinyl in Roman markets. He once said, "Music is not what you hear, it's what you remember." And maybe that's why we still remember him. Not for scandal, but for the feeling his music left behind. He was a man who fell from grace, found beauty in sound, and taught a nation to swing again. This was Piero Piccioni. If you enjoy stories of forgotten genius, subscribe for more, and join me next time for another life that deserves to be heard.